Welcome in the third episode of the second season of Searching for the Slavic Soul, where yet again I am not greeting you as I would greet a Slavic pagan, because you are not even pagan yet, and gods only know how far you are from Slavic native faith. But you are hopefully getting closer, particularly if you have done your homework and rekindled relationships with your family, while at the same time getting rid of your made-up delusional identity. And of course, if you have been venerating your ancestors. Originally, I was planning to start explaining the role of your family in you becoming a Slavic pagan, but then I realized that you will very likely not be able to comprehend any of this, since I bet you dosed up with buckets of psychoactive chemicals you take in order to fit in neatly into the herd of neo-Marxist, pseudo-Christian, Gnostic and brainwashed zombies, which you all morons are, which, I have to be fair here, is not entirely your fault, since you've been told a lie pushed on all of us by the pharmaceutical companies that are currently making a disease of normal human experience in order to make money off of all of us. And the lie that you've been told is that any emotions that are not happiness are pathology, and you need to stop feeling them in order to achieve a state of mental health. Well, you don't. You do not have to be constantly happy. Feeling sadness, despair, hopelessness, loneliness, or defeat is absolutely normal part of human experience, which is something all humans knew like only 5 minutes ago. Being conflicted, having two opposite emotions or thoughts at the same time, feeling like there is something wrong with you and feeling like you do not belong, is totally normal too. It's not only normal, it's necessary for any human to learn, to grow, and to understand both oneself and others. So, it is normal for a human to feel, as it is normal to experience emotional discomfort while interacting with the world. It is also normal not to want to experience such discomfort. If it wasn't normal, many religions or philosophies, like Buddhism or Stoicism or Gnosticism or Sufism, they would never have developed, let alone find any followers. And all these religions and philosophies focus on finding internal peace and consider this finding internal peace as an integral, if not the most important part of their religious or philosophical practice. And let me stress it here. Buddhism or Stoicism do not recommend taking drugs or numbing oneself with other psychoactive substances. They all these religions and philosophies, they require the followers to go through spiritual struggles to find the peace they recommend their followers to seek. And these religions and philosophies had and still have many followers, which for any thinking, not moronic individual, should be the proverbial pudding in which there is the proof of the statement that it is normal for a human to experience emotional discomfort and struggles. This is why it amazes me how anyone could ever buy into the pharmacological numbing of any emotion sold as a way to get healthy, instead of logically concluding that in order to be a human, one simply has got to go through every experience available to humans, including the negative ones, and then find ways to deal with them. But I digress, and since the season 1 of this podcast, I got much better at avoiding digressions while recording podcasts, so I will use this new skill of mine to shut up and get back into the topic. And the topic is the Slavic pagan view of emotions, on how to feel them, how to manage them, and last but not least, What are emotions for? In answering these questions, I will pretty much exclusively rely on a book called Kultura, Ludowa, Słowian, which means the folk culture of Slavs, written by Kazimierz Moszyński, who was a Polish ethnographer, ethnologist, and scholar of Slavic studies. He wrote a monumental, nearly 2,500 pages long, comprehensive study of the folk culture of the Slavs and published it in 3 tomes. Today, I will be referring mostly to the second tome, which was published in 1934 and is titled Kultura, Duchowa, Part 1. And before you start to moronically complain on the date of the publication, because it's nearly 90 years old, and only new stuff is good and the old stuff is bad, I'd like to point out that, first, Kultura Ludowa Słowian cites sources from the 18th and 19th century when pagan practices were super common among the Slavs, particularly in the rural areas, as the Christianization of the Slavs was a top-down and quite superficial process. Which, by the way, is the reason why there is still a lot, and I mean a lot, of live and actively practiced pagan traditions among the Slavs to this day, particularly outside of the big cities. But back in the 18th, 19th and early 20th century, pagan practices were even more common. And what the ethnographers did back then was just basically going from village to village and record everything. Tales, myths, songs, poetry, all sorts of healing or magical rituals, absolutely everything. In Kultura Duchowa, there are actual citations from farmers or local szeptuchas written down word by word as they were explaining what they were doing, how they were doing it, what are the words used, and how was it done by the parents and grandparents. I mean, it's just unbelievable the level of details of recording of all these folk traditions. The effort that went into it, it's just truly mind-blowing. So the book is nearly 90 years old, but that's good because that means that it was written based on materials gathered in times where there was even more pagan traditions actively being practiced than today. And the other reason why 1934 as the year of publication makes the book even more awesome is that it preserved a lot of materials lost in the Second World War, which, as you might or might not know, resulted in destruction of Slavic lands, particularly Poland. So the book on which I base today's podcast was published in 1934 and is titled Kultura Duchowa, Part 1. The reason why it's Part 1 is that the spiritual culture of Slavs is so vast, it took 2 tomes to write it all down. So out of 3 tomes of folk culture of Slavs, 1 tome, the first one, is about the material culture, and the other 2 tomes are about the spiritual culture. I mentioned that just in case you were wondering why spirituality is so important for a Slav in general, and a pagan Slav in particular. So if you want to become Slavic pagans, you need to get spiritual people like by yesterday. And I'm not talking about the stupid, new age, syncretic, drug-induced, comatose superficiality which is sold to you as spirituality. I am talking about being deeply rooted in the reality, based on profound understanding of own nature and humanity, fueled by connecting the mundane day-to-day with the whole universe of supernatural beings. I'm talking about the spirituality of feeling, experiencing, and embracing life as a grown-up and mature human. Which, by the way, you do not have to live 40 plus years to become. You do not have to be 40 plus years old to become a grown-up and mature human. All you have to do is to embrace the heritage left to you by the generations of Slavs who used their Slavic spirituality to survive not only things that would literally kill you, such as puberty, death of a hamster, or talking face to face with a stranger, but they also used their spirituality to survive things that literally killed dozens of their own people, often family members and friends. Things like actual starvation when the harvest was bad and with no access to Amazon groceries or local convenience store, they actually had to survive with no food or barely any food for the whole winter. Or an actual war, not the one that you see on your screens, but one that is taking place in front of you with blood and guts spilling, and one that you have to fight in to make it out alive and hopefully, but not necessarily, in one piece. Or actual epidemics, not the ones that kill only geriatric diabetics, but real ones that kill indiscriminately children and adults in their prime. And just to be clear, I'm absolutely not longing for pre-industrial times that require such spirituality to survive. I am 100% sure that if I suddenly found myself in pre-industrial times amongst the Slavs, I would end up dead inside of a week, mostly because I have no skill and no physical resilience that is required to thrive outside of our comfortable Western world. However, I do strive and urge you to strive for it too, to achieve maybe, if I'm lucky, 50% of psychological resilience our ancestors had. Because if I can do that, nothing in the modern world can touch me. If I can be half as psychologically resilient as our ancestors were, I would be anti-fragile. And this is why I have been saying since, I think, 2020 or so, that Slavic native faith is a shield and a sword that lets you go through modern life and thrive without caring or giving any attention to stupid people with stupid problems such as microaggressions or whether knitting patterns are racist or not. But I am not going to go on another digression because I am older and wiser now. I am talking about spirituality and why you need to get one. And also, I am talking about emotions which you need to be able to feel in order to even attempt to develop spirituality in any shape or form. And the reason why you need to be able to feel emotions is that emotions are the only way to develop any sort of connections with something larger and more important than yourself. Your emotions tell you about what's important for you, about what's just, what's repulsive, what's divine, and what is the one thing or who is the one person for which or for whom you are willing to live, to die, and to sacrifice. You need your emotions to guide you on your path to spirituality. You need to be able to feel your emotions, process them, and distinguish whether what you are feeling is what you are feeling or whether it is something that something else makes you feel in order to, for example, manipulate you or feed off of you. Because, my damn zombified, drag up to your eyeballs morons, in Slavic Pagan tradition, one of the signs of demonic interference is experiencing overwhelming emotions that cause all sorts of physical and mental symptoms. And you, having at some point experienced such emotions, instead of dealing with it as one should deal with demonic interference, you dragged yourself up so you do not feel anything at all. My guess is that by now, after years of numbing yourself and blocking all of these overwhelming emotions, you have a horde of various demons feeding off of you, using you and manipulating you, and you don't even know it, because every time you feel anything, you just pop another pill or numb yourself with stupid TikTok clips or a new tattoo or some other shit. It's heartbreaking, really, what was done to you, what you did to yourself, and what you allowed to be done to you. I am hearing that people in the West are so alienated from their own bodies that they cannot even feel if they are hungry or thirsty let alone if they are sad or disappointed. There's just no awareness of any sort of internal spiritual life. It's all dumb, black and white, stupid duality where if you're not hysterically happy, you are by definition depressed and on the verge of suicide. It's so deeply heartbreaking how lost you are. But hopefully we are going to get you to a point where you are able to function emotionally without any pharmacology in a normal 21st century first world setting and outside of no-go zones, where the worst that can happen to you is that someone will call you something you do not like being called. And you will be able to handle it without crying in your car while streaming to your followers. So, let's start with overwhelming emotions. And as I already said, in Slavic Pagan tradition, they are caused by demonic influence, although it is not clear whether the demons cause the emotion that overwhelms you or if they cause you to become super sensitive to any emotion. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because once you're familiar with the way you function emotionally, you will be able to recognize whether it is you who's too sensitive or whether it's the emotion you feel that's too intense or, for example, not the type of emotion you would normally feel in response to the situation that you are in. And this is exactly why it's so important for you to feel and experience your emotions without any pharmacological numbing. Because if you don't know or are not used to how you normally function within the realm of emotions, you are not able to tell whether what and how you feel is typical for you or not. And if you do not know whether what you feel is typical for you or not, you will naturally get overwhelmed. Just as babies and toddlers do every time they feel anything outside of a narrowly defined calm. They get overwhelmed when they're hungry. They get overwhelmed when they're tired, when their nappy is wet, and when there is a noise they did not expect. Everything overwhelms them, and this is why they cry for pretty much any reason and sometimes for no apparent reason at all. You do not want to be a baby or a toddler. You want to be a grown-up who's capable of not getting hysterical and overwhelmed about every single stupid little thing experience. To give you an idea of the type of experiences that would not emotionally overwhelm an average, say, female 12 years old pre-Christian pagan Slav, by the age of 12, she would have already experienced on a regular basis severe starvation. She would have experienced her parents and other members of her family telling her to stop being stupid or to shut up or to go and get water from the river, do laundry, clean the barn or the house. She would have been taught how to start fire, how to handle a knife, how to use projectile weapons, because it would have been obvious to anyone that she needs to be able to look after herself, including defending herself if needed. She would have experienced assisting in giving birth, looking after a newborn, seeing said newborn dying, perhaps even in her arms, seeing one of the women she loved dying in childbirth, seeing at least one another member of her family dying, assisting in performing funeral rituals, including likely handling feces and urine which dead body releases after sphincters relax. She would have seen and perhaps even assisted in slaughtering an animal, gutting said animal, and cleaning up the meat. She would have seen a limb being amputated and perhaps even a slow and extremely painful death of sepsis. She likely would not have been sent to war, since her potential to bear children would have been far too valuable to risk death before checking if she's capable of conceiving and carrying a child. And if she was a tomboy and wanted to fight, she would have been told no, because what she wanted wasn't as important as what was important for the survival of the family. But if her family was attacked, she would have to, as everyone else, take part in defending her family. So she would have witnessed wounds and death, or perhaps even participated in killing. And she would have handled all of it. If our hypothetical 12-year-old Slav was a male, he could have easily witnessed another man, perhaps even his father, being wounded during a hunting trip or while working in the field. He could have witnessed a war or even fought in a war, where he would have seen skulls crushed, brains splashed, guts spilling, bones sticking out of broken limbs, tough warriors suffocating in their own blood, the lot. And he would have handled it. And you, my zombified listeners, are descendants of these 12-year-old children. You have the same blood, the same emotional makeup, the same potential for being resilient and overcoming the worst horrors you can imagine, as well as the horrors you can't even begin to imagine. I know that for sure, and I want you to know it too. How you live, where you live, what you've experienced in your life, it is the easiest the whole humanity had it ever. Ever in the whole history. So whatever happened or will happen to you, you are fully capable of handling it without getting overwhelmed, without having to rely on pharmaceuticals, fidget spinners, snap bands, and whatever else anyone ever told you to do in order to cope. Whatever it is, you do not need it. All you need is to experience whatever you experience and reach deep into your body. Reach out to your ancestors to find the resilience your ancestors were naturally selected to develop in order to survive and bring up the next generation. The resilience you've inherited and you don't even know you have it. And after this preamble and reassuring you that you can cope with anything life throws at you, let's get rid of your demons and get you to be able to go to the grocery store or to answer the phone when it's ringing. You are full of demonic influence and you are surrounded by demons who are having their way with you on a daily basis. Chances are your whole family is full of demonic influence too, since, from what I understand, normal human experiences started to be medicated in America back in the 60s or the 70s. Which means that you are likely not able to ask your mom to get rid of the demonic influence for you, which is, as Moszyński wrote in Kultura, Duchowa, a very common and very easy way of getting rid of many effects of demonic influences, including all sorts of diseases caused by demons. And also, by the way, it's another awesome and kick-ass thing about being a mom. Having powers over demons pestering your child. But if you are sure that your mom is not full of demons, you can ask her to suck the demonic influence out of you. And I mean literally suck it out of you. This procedure Moszyński describes in context of all sorts of problems caused by przestrach, so a sudden fear, which is an emotion that happens very commonly in children because children and are not in control of their emotions. You are also not in control of your emotions, so even though you are likely not a toddler anymore, your mom might be able to suck the effects of sudden fear out of you to give you a bit of a break from this debilitating anxiety you've been experiencing since you saw Saint Greta on the telly and decided you will also get anxiety about the climate change. Of which I'm not going to say a word here because once I start, I will not end until next week. So, your mom, and Moszyński is very specific about it, it has got to be your mom, not your dad. It is not explained why, but it's got to be your mom. Your mom sucking out przestrach out of you. Easy to do, works every time if you are a toddler, but since you're not a toddler, it might not work, but still worth trying. You want your mom to put her lips on the skin of your back and suck out the przestrach. Once she sucks it out, she should spit it out on the ground. Obviously, the whole ritual should take place outside, since you do not want demons or the effects of the influence being spat on the floor of your house. Your mom should repeat this sucking and spitting 3 times on the back and 3 times on your chest. Moszyński describes the procedure being done on prepubescent children, so he does not specify from where exactly on the chest the przestrach should be sucked out. But since you are not a prepubescent child, I suggest your mom sucks it out from the middle part of the chest, close to the collarbone, just to make sure nothing inappropriate is happening. Also, in another procedure of sucking demons out, which I will not describe in details, because this procedure must be performed exclusively by experienced healers, otherwise can end up badly. And knowing how moronic you are, if I tell you how it's done, in your abysmal stupidity and egomania, you will try to do it to put it up on TikTok and get more monetization out of your stupid pseudo-pagan content. So I will not tell you how it's done, but will only tell you that there is one healing procedure where demons are being sucked out of the neck, just above the collarbone. So in case of your mom sucking demons out of you, staying on the chest close to the collarbone is, in my opinion, good place to put her lips on. But as I said before, your mom is likely also under demonic influence, so my guess is that you would have to skip asking her to help and get rid of your demon-driven pathology in a different way. And now, the basic 3 ways of getting rid of demons and any pathologies caused by them, including overwhelming emotional states, are 1. Making the environment unhospitable for malevolent demons so they go away looking for an easy prey. 2. Actually getting rid of demons by killing them or catching them and releasing somewhere far away from where you are. And 3. Getting a benevolent demon to get rid of the malevolent demon for you. If you listened to episode 11 of the first season of Searching for the Slavic Soul, you know why I differentiate between malevolent and benevolent demons. If you have not listened, I recommend you do. And here I am only going to very quickly say that Slavic native faith does not see supernatural beings in a good and evil category, but sees them as potentially benevolent and potentially malevolent, while at the same time knowing that the benevolence and malevolence of any given demon is not a result of the nature of this demon, but of the nature of what this particular demon can do for you, or with you, or to you. So, with maybe a few exceptions, any demon can be benevolent or malevolent depending on how you are willing and how capable you are to work with this particular demon. But back to getting you out of the influence of the demons, because I'm already talking longer than I planned. So one way in which you can try to get rid of the demons that make you the emotional train wreck you are is by making you and your environment inhospitable for demons. Given that you've been medicating yourself with psychoactive chemicals since gods know how long, which made you the easiest of prey for the most weak and pathetic demons, it might actually work, particularly since you're surrounded by equally train wreck humans who will be equally easy prey. So the demons, if they experience even a smidgen of difficulties, they just move on to someone else. And according to Moszyński, one sure way to make you and your environment inhospitable for malevolent demons is to keep you clean and sober and your environment clean and argument-free. So, clean your house, paying particular attention to large tufts of dust accumulated in the corners, which are the favorite places for złydnie to be. You should start from the back of the house and move towards the front of the house. It's best if you don't dump the hoovered or swept dust into a rubbish bin in your house, but carry it outside and dump it, ideally, somewhere where it's damp and moist. It's best if you have regular cleaning schedule that does not mix with your interactions with your ancestors, because you do not want to sweep or hoover your ancestors. For example, I usually clean my place on Sunday and venerate my ancestors on Thursday. Twice a year, I also sweep my place with a bunch of willow twigs, also starting from the back and going towards the front door, and then I carry out the bunch of twigs to the river where the local rusałki live, and they deal with any malevolent demons for me. If your house has not been properly cleaned for a long time, I'd say it's a good idea to get the willow twigs as well and sweep the house with them after you do the first cleaning. Moszyński also advises smudging the house with prickly, stingy or thorny herbs such as stinging nettle, teasel or prickly sow thistle. He does not recommend smudging with sage, which, as I'm hearing, is the go-to for delusional pseudo-pagans. But they don't know shit, so don't listen to them, and do not smudge with sage if you want to make your place inhospitable for malevolent demons. It is also very important that you do not store broken items in your house, as malevolent demons love broken things. How I do it is, if anything in my house breaks, I either fix it straight away or get rid of it straight away. If it's something that's fixable but I cannot fix it straight away, I put it in my car, since I do not have any garage or storage space outside of my flat. So, that's cleaning your place to make it inhospitable for malevolent demons. I also mentioned keeping your place peaceful, as in argument-free, not as in always quiet. But I do not think you are ready for that just yet, since you can't even keep yourself at peace. So I will be getting back to it in the future episodes. Same goes for getting yourself a benevolent demon to fight your demons for you. We will get back to it later. As to making yourself inhospitable for malevolent demons, you need to put yourself through a substantial level of physical discomfort. The idea behind it is that if the demon sits in you, then you have got to experience some discomfort, and thus the demon will experience the discomfort and will get out of you to go somewhere else. With regards to causing yourself discomfort, from the most humane things that Moszyński writes about is sauna, heating yourself with willow twigs or even stinging nettles, pouring ice-cold water on yourself, or drinking bitter or disgusting concoctions that make you vomit, which I find absolutely fascinating in the context of eating disorders, which, from a Slavic Pagan point of view, are clearly cases of demonic possession. And some of people with eating disorders do make themselves sick on purpose, almost like on some subconscious level they knew that they need to get the demon out of themselves. But that's a side note, and just to be clear, I will not be even attempting to advise you how to cure an eating disorder, because it's serious stuff and I'm not qualified. But as to putting yourself through discomfort, there is obviously more stuff in the book, but I will not be listing it to not to get sued for encouraging self-harm. I will only say that it's super important not to make yourself bleed as you're putting yourself through the discomfort of your choice. The blood will feed the demon, and that will be completely counterproductive. So, blunt injuries, baby, no cuts. And also, of which Moszyński obviously does not write, as a way of putting yourself through discomfort, I suggest doing some heavy physical exercise. The sort of physical exercise that leaves you sweaty, breathless, and feeling like you're just about to spit your lungs out. And the next day, your whole body is sore and you can barely walk. Moszyński does not mention it because until recently, physical exercise was like 100% the thing that every human did. But now is not. We are all unfit and like 50% of us is obese. So you can hit two birds with one stone. Get fit and make yourself unhospitable for various malevolent demons. As to actually killing demons or catching them, That's quite complicated and typically requires either advanced understanding of Slavic pagan tradition or participation of other people who know what they are doing, of which you have access to neither, so I will not be telling you how it's done, because in your stupidity you might actually try some of these techniques and hurt yourself and others in the process. But there is one approach you can definitely try, and it is yet again an approach that was used on toddlers, so the same caveats as before apply. You are technically not a toddler, but you act like one, so who knows, it might actually work. This approach is a Slavic version of shadow work, and it's beautiful in its simplicity. It's basically torturing your shadow, which was done on toddlers' shadow, since obviously toddlers can't be put through rounds of serious, full-blown Slavic anti-demonic rituals. Moszyński writes that cutting with a knife or chopping with an axe the shadow of a toddler was particularly effective if the toddler's demonic problem gave symptoms of crying and waking up at night. So I'd say if you suffer from insomnia or nightmares or other sleep-related problems, before you go to sleep, prepare a candle and a knife or an axe. It might be a good idea to get a piece of wood or something that you can cut or chop instead of your wall or floor. Also make sure that there is something around to light the candle and then go to sleep. As you wake up from your nightmare or after you've been tossing and turning for a while in the darkness, get up, light the candle, position the candle in such way that it casts your shadow on the piece of wood you prepared, and then just start cutting and chopping your shadow. Moszyński does not mention that the thing on which your shadow is being cast has to be physically destroyed, so I guess you do not have to be particularly brutal. After you're satisfied that your shadow has been sufficiently tortured, blow the candle and go back to sleep. According to Moszyński, it works well on toddlers, but no idea if it will work on you. But it really does not hurt to try, does it? And of course, I forgot. The reason why you torture your shadow as close as possible to the time you're experiencing problems with sleeping is that this is the time where demons are likely interfering with you. Because demons that interfere with you are not with you all the time. They come and go as they fancy, and you need to put yourself through discomfort or torture your shadow when you are experiencing the signs of demonic interference. So when you have a nightmare or when you are having an emotional meltdown because you've just experienced microaggression or some other minor inconvenience. So if you decided to put yourself through discomfort, such as walking into stinging nettles or pouring cold water on yourself, try to either do it when you are having your meltdown or try to trigger a meltdown when you are in a position to walk into stinging nettles or pour cold water on yourself. Remember, the point is not to torture yourself. The point is to torture the demon. You are just the vessel in which the demon happens to be sitting. And remember never to draw blood when you are trying to get rid of a demon, as it is going to be totally counterproductive. So, to summarize, in order to be a Slavic pagan, you need to develop a healthy spirituality. In order to develop a healthy spirituality, you need to start feeling your emotions so you can get to know them, start understanding them, get the feel of how your emotional makeup works and what's typical for you and what's not. You need to also stop getting overwhelmed by emotions and having all your stupid meltdowns, since in Slavic tradition, such meltdowns is a sign of demonic interference. And since your emotional dysregulation is very likely a result of demonic interference, you need to take steps to make yourself less vulnerable to demonic influences, which means at the very minimum that you need to get sober from alcohol or drugs and get a cleaning schedule going in your place. And if you want to do anti-demonic smudging, use prickly or stingy herbs, never sage. If you want to go an extra step as you are experiencing emotional meltdown, you can either bloodlessly put yourself through a reasonable level of discomfort or do some Slavic shadow work with an axe or a knife. As to your homework, I want you to see how much emotions you can handle without getting overwhelmed. Like really, just feel whatever you feel without reacting to it in any way, without expressing it anyway. Get angry, get sad, get devastated. Feel your anguish, your pain and your desperation and just stay with it. Don't express it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't lash out and don't distract yourself in any way, be it through consumption of psychoactive substances, of self-harming or whatever else stupid coping mechanism you've developed to separate yourself from your humanity. Breathe and stay strong. Reach out to your body, to your blood, to your heritage. You know how to handle unimaginable horrors. You've just forgotten that you know it. You can find this knowledge within yourself. Let your ancestors guide you. Hold on to your family bonds, to what's been passed to you through the blood of your ancestors and the bodies of your parents. Hold on to being human, child of your parents, a grandson or a granddaughter. Hold on to being a Slav who can handle anything and survive the unimaginable. And also talk to your doctor about safely getting off of any psychoactive drugs you might be taking for depression or anxiety or other normal human feelings. Unless you actually are actively bipolar or say psychotic, chances are you do not need these drugs at all anyway. You just need to learn how to be a human, not a zombie. And that is all I had to say for today. It was long, but worth it. Keep talking to your ancestors. Keep building bonds with your family. Keep getting familiar with your emotional makeup. And by next month, you hopefully be able to handle family matters and, if there is enough time, getting yourself a dollar. And for now, thank you for listening and until next episode. Sława.